Major funding for Florida Matters comes from the Mosaic Company, a leading producer of fertilizer made from phosphate, a natural resource found in Florida. America's farmers depend on Florida phosphate for their crop nutrition needs. Mosaic, helping America grow.
Whether you're an art connoisseur or paint by numbers is more your style, we're going to take you off the beaten path today to introduce you to some Bay Area artists you may not know. Welcome to Florida Matters. I'm Irene Mayer. The Tampa Bay Performing Arts Center, the Van Wezel, the Mahaffey. You know the big names where you can find great artists in the area, but you might not know about the ones we're going to introduce you to. They're well known in their respective fields, but aren't quite household names yet. We'll take you inside their workshops, and we'll also take you inside an artist's commune right here in the Bay Area. When the topic of art comes up, it often begs the question, what is art, and who defines it? The Aerostream display near I-4 outside of Tampa claims to be art, yet some say it's an eyesore or clever marketing for the nearby dealer. And near the I-75 entrance on Fletcher Avenue, this structure made out of recycled materials is considered art by some. For years, graffiti was viewed negatively for its tagging of building facades and overpasses, but is now shown in big city galleries as an art form of its own. Our first story goes to a place in Florida where the art is forged in fire. Some areas of Florida attract artists more than others. One of those places is the avant-garde community of Gulfport. Jackie Ballard discovered Gulfport around 20 years ago.
Somebody told me about Gulfport, and as soon as I came here, I said, wow, this is it. It is perfect. It's near everything, on the water, small community. People walk, ride a bike, have a dog, don't lock your doors. I probably shouldn't say that, but you know, it's just a real laid-back little community.
Jackie is a master glass blower and created art in her private Gulfport studio for 20 years.
I've been blowing glass since 1980, and I used to do shows, and I had galleries, and in about 2000 I said, I really want to do more. I think it's very important when you're an artist to be able to pass on your knowledge and what you know. Plus, teaching keeps one sort of in the thick of things, if you will.
And in July of 2008, construction began on her dream project.
The Industrial Arts Center is a not-for-profit, innovative teaching facility where people can come and create artwork that is three-dimensional. Art you can actually hold in your hands. We specialize in glass, whether it's glass blowing, lamp working, bead making, things like that.
I feel like everybody's got this creative energy inside them. They just need to know how to use it. Well, that's what we do here. We provide an outlet. They can come here, they can learn how to blow glass, they can learn how to do lamp work, they can learn how to do whatever they want to do.
Owen Patch is a premier glass artist who recently came to work with Jackie at the Industrial Arts Center.
I'd heard that she had been working on this thing from several people because it's a rather small community. We may be spread out, but it's still a rather small community. So I came back and made contact with her and realized that she could use a little help, and I needed to get set up, and then it couldn't have been any better for me, you know, because I wound up taking over her old studio, which was a glass studio, so now I have a studio in Gulfport. I'm able to come here and make work.
And make work he does.
You know, everybody's got their own take on the material, and the current series I'm working in, the sculptures are called elemental improvs, and they involve accumulating different materials and then sort of assembling them. They're called improvs because I really never know exactly what I'm going to get. I think the complexity of it is what most people are fascinated by. The complexity and the heat and the intensity and all the things that I really love about it. You're dealing with this material that's it's a molten media. It's the only material like it that you can reheat. By reheating it, you can make it less viscous, so you can tool it, and It's just a fascinating material. I mean, it requires a great deal of focus and concentration. You can sort of, you share the creative process with the material because the material sort of seems sometimes to have a mind of its own. I'm influenced by almost everything. You know, like I'm fascinated by everything. And as artists, we have to persevere. I mean, I know that I'm here in this physical form to be a glass artist, you know, and it's what I'll always do. I hope I die with a blowpipe in my hand, you know. It's like, I'll certainly be buried with one, you know.
Owen Patch was born in Tampa. His quest to master the art of glass led him away for 18 years. But now we have him back in Florida.
I'd much rather be somewhere in the South and in a community that's not all charged with energy so that I can sort of disconnect from it and, you know, go into my studio, make my work with a certain measure of peace. I think that's really important, to have a certain measure of peace.
Owen Patch's award-winning work is on permanent display in museums, municipal buildings, and corporate headquarters around the country. Studio apprentice David Spurgeon is an accomplished artist in his own right and shares Owen's and Jackie's obsession with glass.
I just fell in love with it. The first time I stuck a piece of glass in the flame, and it's one of those things where I wake up in the morning and I really am thinking about, you know, glass, and I go to sleep at night and last thing I think about is glass. It's the only medium that's actually captivated me in that way.
There's very few places in the country that I know of that are like what we are, very unique. Gulfport, being a small town, is very supportive of what we're doing here. It used to be an art village and it sort of went by the wayside for a while. And it's on an upswing again. We are bringing the arts back.
Every first Friday and third Saturday of the month, Gulfport hosts an art walk on Beach Boulevard.
Gulfport is a gift. You know, it's Florida's best kept secret. And we sort of hope that it stays a secret, but we sort of hope it doesn't. You know, it's like, it's kind of weird.
It looks as though the secret is out. Gulfport, Florida is a community with a fiery passion for art. Classes where you can learn lots of new art forms are available at community centers all over the Bay Area. We'll have a link on our website so you can find one near you. Go to WUSF.org/Florida Matters. Our next artist was recently featured in Lights on Tampa, and his work will be part of the new Tampa Riverfront Walk. But to call Carlton Ward simply a photographer who takes beautiful pictures would be missing the greater statement his art is trying to make.
Amidst the windswept broom sage, while the cattle are settling in for the night and the sun is about to set, Carlton Ward begins the search for the perfect landscape.
Do you have any? Are there any cattle in any of the maiden cane prairies now?
Not right now.
They're all winter rye or whatever.
They're all probably off in the woods by now.
A picture that represents a part of Florida unchanged by time and generations of landowners.
It's one of these kind of gems of what it used to look like centuries ago.
A part of Florida in danger of disappearing forever.
The Clay Ranches is one of 40 or 50 landscapes in the state of Florida. They're the top of the state's priority acquisition list.
Being here at the ranch to capture the land's beauty and highlight the property makes Carlton more than just a nature photographer.
I think nature photography as a whole has been a little bit myopic in its focus and presenting nature as it exists without people.
As a conservation photographer, Carlton has been working on photographs that highlight areas of Florida in need of protection.
What I'm trying to do with my photography is raise awareness for the less seen aspects of the Florida environment and the cultural legacies connected to those environments.
We rode along with Carlton at the Clay Ranch in Putnam County in northern Florida. He and Chance Clay were racing the sunset, scouting locations on the 3,000-acre farm. The Clay Ranch has a diverse landscape, and Carlton is looking for one image to represent the essence of the land. Chance and his friend Michael Dean, with Razor in tow, drive Carlton around to look for the right spots.
There's the rye fields down there.
I only have one frame, one image to do it all in, so I'm trying to find one that represents all these elements.
He plans to feature the Clay Ranch in an upcoming calendar highlighting endangered lands as designated by Florida Forever, a state program designed to preserve Florida's natural and cultural heritage.
If it wasn't for the cattle rancher, this ranch would not be protected. But if it wasn't for this ranch, there wouldn't be the cattle ranch area.
But getting the perfect shot takes time.
With the landscape photography, you only have dawn and dusk, so you've got 2 shots a day to try to get it.
The first day proves to be difficult.
Well, we found the perfect spot for a photograph. It shows the native grassland and the oak hammocks, and got set up and drove all around this 3,000-acre ranch to find it, and now the clouds came. So chances are we won't be able to get a shot tonight.
So he'll start early tomorrow for a chance to capture the morning dew settling on the prairie. Today, Tommy Clay takes over showing Carlton some of the most beautiful acreage on his property. It's a source of pride and reassurance that the land that's been in his family for over 150 years will continue to be protected from outside development.
I kind of feel that the worst day on this ranch is perhaps better than the best day in town.
A sentiment shared by all the members of the Clay family. Carlton himself is an 8th-generation Floridian. The landscape and traditional culture represent a part of his heritage, too. While photography began as a hobby for him, the idea to combine it with his love for nature came while working in Africa.
I started out my career working in Central Africa with the Smithsonian. It was a really exciting opportunity working with scientists in an exotic place and doing a collection of images that hadn't been done before. But after bouncing back and forth out of the country for 3 years, every time I came back home, Florida had visibly changed, and not necessarily for the better.
While on assignment, Carlton took his own photographs and published a book to recognize the beauty found in Africa, hoping to inspire local conservation. The book was a success, and Carlton realized the same idea could work for conservation efforts in Florida.
I was working and exporting a conservation ethic to a developing country through my photography. Meanwhile, my home state was kind of losing its heritage and losing its land.
So, with confidence from his African experience, Carlton set out to mobilize Florida's preservation effort in a new way. He founded the Legacy Institute for Nature and Culture, also known as LINC, in hopes of reaching a new audience of potential activists. If people could see the beauty in his art and realize it came from their own backyard, then maybe they would be more apt to protect the lands.
When we were trying to figure out the right name for LINC, the Legacy Institute for Nature and Culture, when that acronym arrived, the concept of connection kind of solidified it as what we do. And it's helping provide that connection.
He teamed up with retired local TV news anchor Bob Height to produce the documentary Florida Cowboys, which highlights a part of Florida many of today's residents don't relate to, but has been a significant part of Florida's history. Carlton also participated in Lights on Tampa, a public art event.
It was an exciting opportunity to work with Lights on Tampa because that was the first public art installation I had done. Anyone and everyone is going to see it. They don't have to go to a gallery during defined hours and pay an admission fee. If you're going down Platte in Tampa, you're going to see the art.
Carlton's photography featured in Lights on Tampa will be on permanent display at the Tampa Riverfront Walk as part of an educational component.
If you're working as an artist and you have the opportunity or the knowledge to kind of shed some light on a subject or bring some awareness, I think it's definitely an opportunity.
While he's hesitant to call himself an artist, his work speaks for itself. With each photograph sold at a fine art gallery, on his website, or featured in a magazine, he knows he has the potential to reach a greater audience.
If someone were to give me $10 million and say, go put it to use for conservation, I wouldn't necessarily spend that money on science or research. I'd probably get an army of photographers and videographers and send them out to tell the stories that people need to know. Because I think science and research are important. I have a master's degree in ecology myself, but science falls short of reaching the public and reaching out to people's hearts. So the media and the arts, I mean, it's our role to help close that loop and bring that connection.
Carlton's current project, which involves 11 other photographers, will capture 12 places chosen by Florida Forever to be featured in the new calendar.
In 1871, a photographer named William Henry Jackson went into what is now Yellowstone National Park with the U.S. Geological Survey, and they created the first national park in the world by the combination of the science and the photography, and that's the ultimate goal.
For Florida Matters, I'm Carson Cooper.
Our next two stories come from Sarasota, which isn't unusual since so much art is generated from this small coastal town. Sarasota is somewhat of an anomaly when you consider its relatively small size compared to the robust arts community there. From opera to community theater, ballet to classical chamber music, there's a creative energy found in Sarasota that rivals larger cities throughout the country.
On any given night in Sarasota, there are as many as 7,000 tickets available to the performing arts, which per capita, there's not another city that comes close.
The community encourages artists to develop their talents, and there's even a place where artists from around the country come for inspiration. Susan Giles-Wantuck has the story.
Nestled along the Gulf Coast, 5 cottages make up the Hermitage Artist Retreat. It was born from the vision of 2 former Sarasota County Arts Council members. Former Director Patricia Caswell wanted to save some old buildings, and Sid Adler wanted to revive the old artist colony that took root in the 1950s in Sarasota County. The goal was to create a place for artists to share ideas and art with like-minded people. The site is prime beachfront real estate in the town of Englewood, and it's much warmer and brighter than what Antwerp native Rachel Agnew is used to.
Yeah, this is heaven on earth. I don't think, when the sun goes down here, it's so beautiful. I don't believe in why would I paint this, because in real life it's much more beautiful.
The Hermitage is named for a recluse who once lived on this land. Now it's a place for painters, composers, and playwrights in mid-career to recharge and find new inspiration in nature and perhaps each other.
To be near the breeze of nature and the breeze of our planet is a very refreshing experience for me. That's part of the reason when I got the letter from the invitation from Hermitage, and I understood it's right next to the beach. I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Count me in.
The Hermitage environment is exclusive by design. Artists can only come by invitation, and at most, 4 artists will be in residence at one time. They are nominated and then selected by members of some of the most prestigious organizations in the country, such as the Brooklyn Academy of Music and the Kennedy Center.
When you get an invitation from people who are at the high level, they're recognizing where you are in your career as an artist. It's very meaningful to get that letter out of the blue in the mail saying, congratulations, you've been invited by this committee of people to come and to work at this place.
Roger says it's no coincidence that this artist retreat is in Sarasota County. He calls it one of the most artistically intense counties in the country. And he says with arts organizations already producing such great work, the Hermitage filled a need by having a place for individual artists to come.
After all, every symphony that you hear and every play that you see and every book that you read, every painting that you see in the museum begins with a person in a room with a passion. And so we provide the space and the time for that person to come. We provide that room for that person to come and to start that process, which may end up in Tampa or in Sarasota. But it begins with one person, usually with an idea.
Wang Ji says she has benefited from her time here. She's met other artists such as playwright Romulus Linney and writer Amy McDonald.
Artists share their life as an artist, thoughts as an artist, and inspiration as an artist, and you feel like you're the same kind, and it's a very, very good feeling because creating art is a very lonely existence, and it means a lot to an artist that they're being understood. And in this environment where people that happens to be here share this with you is, in my opinion, a very valuable environment.
As for Belgian artist Rachel Agnew, the Hermitage is more than she expected.
I've never done this because most of my friends are artists, because you tend to be friends with the people who think about the same or use the same part of the brain. So that's normal, but here I just thought that I would come into like a real American thing and I would be all, oh, I don't feel good here, but it's not true at all. So everyone is great. They understand you, and they know when sometimes I get a bit cuckoo, and then they still understand me.
Rachel says her friendship with Wong will continue long after her time at the Hermitage is over.
She can cook really good. I'm a good cook. She's very funny, and we already arranged that she would come to Antwerp, and I would go to New York. I will jam with her husband. Yeah, she's completely fantastic.
The dreams for this community would not have been realized without Sarasota County.
We have a lease with Sarasota County for 8.5 acres and these 5 buildings. So the county actually owns these buildings, and we lease it for $1 a year. But in return for that, we've raised about $1,300,000 to restore these buildings from some of them were literally falling down. So, we brought these buildings, these pieces of old Florida, back to life, giving them a new life.
Roger says the Hermitage allows the community to interact with world-class artists from America and elsewhere.
I get to call up a Venice Little Theater and say, would you like to have Romulus Linney come and to speak to your audience? And they're thrilled. I mean, he's a major American playwright who's here, and can come at no cost to them, and the community can come and to experience them. And so they can be these relationships and partnerships that we form with the other organizations in the community.
Hermitage artists are asked to share their creativity and work with the community by lecturing, exhibiting their art, performing, or visiting schools. Its mission is creativity, ecology, history, and community. This week, the Hermitage hosts the first winners of the $30,000 Greenfield Prize for the creation of new art. Playwright Craig Lucas and composer Eve Beglarian are crafting works to premiere in Sarasota next year. For Florida Matters, I'm Susan Giles, One Tech.
Larry Elliston is here now with our next Florida story. We just took a tour through Sarasota's Hermitage, and now you have another Sarasota artist for us to meet.
Still near Sarasota. Irene, most Floridians are originally from someplace else. That migration is what makes this such an interesting state. So when a family from New York made its way to a sparsely developed Florida in the mid-1940s, one young son knew exactly what he wanted to be someday. Craig Rubidoux wanted to be an artist. Across Lemon Bay from Manasota Key, Englewood is off the beaten path. Here, the dark green frond of a saw palmetto, backlit in the morning light, wears a crown of sunshine. At the end of an Englewood dirt road, this quiet place is the home and studio of a quiet man. Craig Rubidoux is an artist, and this bit of old Florida speaks to him.
Yeah, this is where I feel at home, I guess. Yeah, just a feeling of the wonder and the beauty of the world.
Rubidoux's connection to a Florida less encumbered by development dates back to the mid-1940s when he moved south with his family from upstate New York. Sarasota's population at the time was about 15,000 people.
So we got in this old 39 Chevy, and it had 7 flat tires on the way. And it was a good adventure for my brother and I.
In the Florida woods, the brilliantly colored scarlet and black seeds of the crab's eye helped continue the adventure.
My brother and I used to use them in our pea shooters. We used to cut lengths of bamboo, but nobody knew then that they're deadly poison.
But like many Floridians, Rubidoux in more recent years has become adept at reading other characteristics of the natural landscape, like the sighting of a surveyor's ribbon tied to a tree. What comes to mind?
Development and roads and houses and more stuff and less Florida. It's not much fun to see.
On a back screen porch with Mother Nature just outside, this prolific artist goes to work in his simple studio. This work, in oil on paper, is part of a series of birds in flight.
I'm trying to get the feeling of motion and the speed and the agility of a hummingbird. They're amazing to watch.
When he was a kid, growing up in Sarasota, Rubidoux knew he wanted to be an artist.
I'm going to have to work on that bill. It's not quite right.
After the Ringling School of Art and an apprenticeship with famed American illustrator Ben Stahl, art has been his passion.
I seem to be driven to paint, and it's kind of an obsession. So it's hard to stop sometimes.
If being consumed with something you like to do can translate into contentment, maybe that's the secret to this artist looking much younger than his 72 years. Though his eclectic artwork can be found in collections all over the world, including the Guggenheim, Rubidoux's loyal following has been developed through regional commissions and sales at Florida galleries.
Yeah, it's nice to know what you do is appreciated, because it's a very solitary thing to do. You know, you're all by yourself, and so when you put an exhibition up, it's nice to get that appreciation back. But that's not why I do it. I do it because I have to do it.
With an eye for color and a love of animals, Craig Rubidoux's paintings of expressionism observe the world around him.
A Dog Running by Mount Fuji is the title. I like all these legs moving. Mount Fuji turns up in a lot of paintings. I stopped there on the way to Kyoto once, and it just made a lasting impression, I guess.
So has Tango the cat.
Did one recently called Tango Upset, which he is sort of with his ears back. And sometimes they're whimsical, like rhinoceros jumping through a hoop. Another one featuring the cat.
A flamenco dancer in Spain, an elephant in a boat. Small sketches and paintings are everywhere.
Raccoon. And some birds. This alligator's done in 85 or 86, I guess. I did a series of alligators. Just kind of whimsical.
After decades of living along the Braden River in Sarasota, but eventually crowded by too much development, artist Craig Rubidoux moved further south to Englewood. Now surrounded by a bit of old Florida, Craig Rubidoux is home.
Listen to the birds and the wild things out in the mangroves. Yeah, it's amazing sounds, and just feels right.
The creative process is just fascinating to watch.
It is, and I hope future Englewood doesn't get too carried away with development, because I think Craig Rubidoux wants to stick around for a while.
Looks like it. Thanks a lot, Larry. Thank you for joining us this week. The discussion continues on our website, where you can post comments, ask questions, or contribute story ideas for upcoming episodes. We'll be sure to get back to you. That's it for this week. I'm Irene Mayer. Join us again next week for Florida Matters.
Major funding for Florida Matters comes from the Mosaic Company, a leading producer of fertilizer made from phosphate, a natural resource found in Florida. America's farmers depend on Florida phosphate for their crop nutrition needs. Mosaic, helping America grow.
Bye.